Hey everybody, welcome to another installment of remote learning. Um, we are going to be talking about today the discriminant, which is in section 610. This is the last section that we're going to cover in this chapter, and fortunately, it's a pretty short little topic. Um, so what we're going to be doing today is using this thing called the discriminant to determine what type of solutions exist in a quadratic equation. Fortunately for us, we already know what the discriminant is. The discriminant is this expression b squared minus 4ac, which comes directly out of our friend here, the quadratic formula. So just once again, the discriminant is b squared minus 4ac, which is coming directly out of the square root. Two quick things to remember. The square root of any positive integer that is not a perfect square is irrational. And the square root of a negative number is a non-real answer. So we're going to use those two facts within the context of the discriminant. So all we're being asked to do in today's lesson is for a given quadratic equation, evaluate the discriminant and tell what kinds of solutions the equation has. So, just like when we use the quadratic formula, we are going to identify our a value, our b value, and our c value. What we are then going to do, and I'll rewrite it for our reference because this is new, we're going to plug that information directly into the discriminant, which is just b squared minus 4ac. Remember, as just a good habit, use parentheses. If you need them, they're there, and if you don't need them, it's not going to make your answer wrong. Remember, you can use or encouraged to use, that's not how you spell it, desmos.com/scientific. When you evaluate this discriminant here, what we get is a value of negative 59. Now, if we were to take the square root of negative 59, because remember, the discriminant comes from this piece inside of the square root, and that the square root of any negative number is a non-real answer. So this particular quadratic equation, because the discriminant is negative, we would say that the equation has non-real answers. And that is it. That is all we're doing. We're getting our a, b, and c value, substituting it into the discriminant. And in this particular example, because the value of the discriminant was negative, we can conclude that this equation would have non-real answers. Moving on, we're just going to do two more examples. We're being asked to do the same thing, to evaluate the discriminant and determine the type of solutions. So our a value is 5, our b value is 3, and our c value is 2. Substitute that information into the into the discriminant. And when we evaluate that, we get a value of 49. Now, if you'll recall, right, 49 is a perfect square. And the square root of any perfect square is rational. And I did leave that off of the list of reminders. So what we're going to say here is because 49 is a perfect square, there are rational solutions to this equation. Meaning that, remember, rational numbers are numbers that can be expressed as a whole number, or rather numbers that can be expressed as a fraction. Lastly, we're going to talk about this one. We're going to identify our A values, our A value, our B value, and our C value. And remember, because this is just an x squared term, that our A value is 1. So we're going to substitute that information into the discriminant. And this is one of those situations where we totally need the parentheses here. So once again, just having that good habit of always putting them there, and then they're there when you need them. So after we evaluate that, we get 24. Because 24 is not a perfect square, we can say that there are irrational solutions. Once again, it's because 24 is not a perfect square that there are irrational solutions. So at the bottom of this piece of paper, all right, I wrote down a summary of the 3 possible scenarios. The first scenario is if b squared minus 4ac, which is called the discriminant, is less than 0, then there are no real solutions. That's the first possibility. The second possibility is if the discriminant is greater than or equal to 0 and is a perfect square, for example, 0, 25, 81, then there are going to be real solutions that are rational. Okay, so if the discriminant is a perfect square, we get rational solutions. And lastly, if the discriminant is greater than or equal to 0 and is not a perfect square, then there are real solutions that are irrational. If the discriminant is less than 0, there are no real solutions. If the discriminant is a perfect square, there are rational solutions. If the discriminant is not a perfect square, there are irrational solutions. And that is it. No other little things to do there. Just A, B, and C value, plug it into the discriminant, and then identifying if it's one of these 3 options. Thanks for watching, folks. I hope everybody and their family is healthy and doing well. I miss you guys so much, and I hope you have a great weekend. Thank you.